Okay, a very good morning to all our online viewers. You're welcome to our third edition of the virtual studio discussions, where we discuss nothing other than electoral democracy in all its dimensions. Today we have two guests. One is on the way. One has already joined us. And allow me to introduce to you a youth person, but very politically active. She's the chairperson of the Interparty Youth League. She's also the chairperson for the People's Progressive Party. And she also harbors political ambitions at some point. You are most welcome, Linnet Nanyonjo.
Thank you very much. I am very fortunate to be among the people you chose to interact with this morning. I'll be delightful to share a few insights.
That's great.
And it's an honor to share a platform with Honorable Okidi here. Honorable in waiting, I guess.
All right. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation and being part of this discussion for the next 1 hour. Finally, we've been waiting for Christopher to join, and I think he has managed to navigate the technology that comes with being part of this virtual discussion. Christopher, you're most welcome. Christopher, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you seem to be having a connection problem. You're a bit freezing.
Yeah, I've been device computer and then I think it's one.
Christopher, we can't hear you very well. You don't have a very clear connection.
No. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Yes, Christopher. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, you are skipping. Probably I may advise, I think, for us to have an interpreted discussion, probably maybe you connect only using audio, if audio will be able to give you a stable connection. But Christopher is a lawyer, a social scientist, and is currently contesting for the parliamentary seat of Gulu City East. So he's a candidate. So when you talk about the experiences of being a candidate, he's in the thick and thin of things. He's also the national youth leader of the Democratic Party. You are most welcome to be part of this discussion. So I want to start with Linnet.
Yes, please.
From a lighter perspective, has People's Progressive Party fielded any candidates this time around?
Definitely we have, and we have always fielded candidates.
Okay.
It's just, as a political party that does not get finances, that has based its financing on its membership, you do not field as much as other people. But we have always fielded candidates. Same goes for this time round. We are fielding candidates. And we have parliamentary candidates, we have LC candidates, we have fielded candidates.
How many have you fielded at the parliamentary level? Just curious.
Not very many, but we have.
Okay. You talk about challenges of financing. Why is it difficult for political parties to raise resources to finance party activities like this one, participating in the electoral processes? What are the challenges? Why is it so difficult?
Well, the political setup itself does not allow political parties to expand or invest or get this kind of financing. Look at the law that enables financing for political parties. It only allows political parties that are in parliament. Those are the only political parties that are financed. it doesn't matter if you have one person in parliament. As long as you have a person in parliament, you get the funding. So if you have not been able to get someone to parliament, and of course, the grounds are not leveled, the field is very tricky for parliamentarians as it is. So now, if a political party does not get anyone in parliament, you're locked out on funding. Then the political party has to solely depend on financing within or from well-wishers. And I think as a population or as a community, we have not yet grasped the idea of political funding. You will find a political party with a very huge membership. Okidi can bear me witness on this. But then, with very little subscription fee or very little contribution to the party itself. You've had these conversations. Even I remember sometimes in the news I had the FDC people say, these people are members of parliament of FDC, but they do not even contribute to the party. So I think the idea itself of political party funding for political party individuals has not yet got into the people, into the community very well. But we are a work in progress. We are still a growing democracy. It took America 100 years to get where it is. So,
yeah, that's good. Interestingly, we didn't come to discuss political party financing. So, but you are raising very important aspects around the political party setup, the financing architecture. Although I know the law provides for, I think under Clause B, provides for political parties participating in elections to get funding from government. Unfortunately, for some reason or another, it's not that clause that has been based on when appropriating funds to political parties. They mainly focus on the clause that speaks to representation in parliament. But that's a discussion for another day. Linnet, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You? Okay,
no,
great.
You did.
Now, let's dive straight into what brought us. You were youth first. You were youth, then you were a woman. Those are two interesting categories you fall into. As a youth, we know very well the challenges around youth participation in electoral processes, especially when we talk about effective participation of the youth. But also as a woman, the same question extends. And from your experience, how is the commercialization of electoral politics, this too much money we are seeing in our elections, in our campaigns, in our policy making process, how is it, and specific to now that we are going into 2021, how is it affecting the participation of women?
Frankly speaking, it's really affecting the participation of women because, these are two categories to fall in. A woman and a politician, it's already a tough subject as it is. Now, when the money comes into the picture, it becomes worse. Because literally, initially, society has made it look like women cannot be leaders. Women cannot have money. So if a woman is fortunate to have enough money to commercialize her politics as the male counterpart, she will then be labeled all sorts of names. You've had these conversations. I will not want to repeat. It's very tricky for women, and it's going to get more trickier at this point because I think we are fighting for very many things at the same time. We are fighting for representation, for space, and for gender equality in one space. Where a male counterpart will use 100 million, if a female counterpart is fortunate enough to have 100 million and use it, the conversation will be entirely different. Now, speaking for the fortunate women, now, it's very hard as a woman to have that much money because we are not yet financially emancipated as it is. A few have, most of us haven't. So going into an election where you have your counterparts competing with these chunks of money and you do not have them, it becomes very tricky. We are operating in a society that has very high poverty levels, that people will cease to understand reasoning and issues and base their politics on money. And I think it has been institutionalized or structured by the ruling government to keep control over its population. So as a young woman in politics right now, the money is too much, it's getting worse, and with the look of things, we are going to have fewer women. If things go on like this, we are going to have fewer women come into politics, or have women that do not have quality but have the money. Because the ones that have quality are students that have just come out of the university, that have not amassed enough wealth to participate in such politics, or they are young girls that have a passion, that have their issues, but do not have enough money to participate in this kind of election. So we will definitely be locked out as women.
Wow. Interesting. I'm going to come back to that conversation because I've been following. There have been a couple of allegations within political parties around the underhand methods that disfavor women participation to either come as flag bearers. There have been allegations around sextortion. I think I will come back to that conversation. But let me first bring in Okidi here on the aspects of the youth. The youth have very interesting statistics. For instance, we know for sure that 75% of the population of Uganda, it's the young persons under 30, basically the category of the youth. And 80% of that lives in the rural areas. And when I talk about rural areas, just to marry what Linnet has been saying, is that we are talking about the poverty levels as well. So when you talk about poverty, we are basically discussing the youth question here. But also, what is more interesting is that when you look at the study by Aga Khan Foundation that looked at the youth perceptions, the youth survey report of, I think, 2016, it has interesting statistics concerning the vulnerability of the youth when it comes to being predisposed to voter bribery. I think 74% of them are predisposed to voter bribery, and 39 out of 100 youth say they only vote for a candidate if they are bribed. Now, that's a dangerous statistic to work with. In view of the above, if I'm to carry my point home, why is it that we have youth participating in the political processes, in the electoral processes, more as political capital, as opposed to dictating the electoral outcomes, or participating as candidates, or even influencing the process? Why are we in that situation?
Thank you so much. Can you?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yes. Previously, you know me. Well, I have not had the opportunity to read the report, but from the side and from a practical perspective, I've now in this campaign for 6 months. One, I agree that because of young people are definitely about vote gathering. But you should vulnerability in terms of the bribery is not exclusive young people. In women, even elders, actually it is a class issue. The people, the poor, all those in the below society in terms of income, with the low levels of income, are definitely vulnerable. Because during this electioneering process, there are very many people moving around in the constituency, and some of them are definitely spending money. And the poor members of society, who are not only young people, are also trying to cast their net up, whatever is being given out. You can also translate this and look at it in terms of the whole community. Candidates are being requested halls, candidates are being requested to provide government in order for them to vote. So at the end of it all, the issue about bribery is really is only about them. But what will actually surprise everybody is that young people are actually volunteering in all these campaigns without asking any resource, because they think the future that is being talked about, it is them who are going to benefit. They have an incentive to work hard, volunteer now, so that the future that the candidates promising, they should be part. They have hope that they would benefit from that. So this whole issue of young people participating just more for us as political, I think fine. There may be others, which is of course a smaller percentage participating in terms of capital. But let me tell you, there is political consciousness among young people that has awakened. It is not really only about what candidates are giving. Young people feel as a generation that is not thinking about them, and that is political consciousness. That is what this election is unique. And we actually, when we talk about young people, look at the young people who go to the streets demonstrate. Look at the young people who are married. Oh, they are not being bribed to do this. It's just a national consciousness. Young people will deserve this country. So this is a big contribution. Look at it.
Chris, your connection is not yet very, very secure. You keep skipping them, picking a couple of elements, and I wanted to follow up my your submission about young people with another question around yes, if they're participating, which is good, but there are issues to do with how are they participating in the process. Because when you have a bulk of the population being young persons, but you have less of them really participating in the electoral process as candidates, then there's a problem in between there. And when you have many of them participating either as voters or participating as campaign agents, and to some unfortunate end, participating as agents of voter electoral violence. That is also not the quality participation of young persons we are looking out for. And the question here is, why do we have less numbers of young people shaking the tree within the political space, within the electoral arena, considerably?
Well, Felix, I think let's look at the participation for broader people. Even when you say you're interested in some qualitative contribution young people making in politics currently, one thing is that you get at the national level, you know this is one solution where young people they call it this is the version of traffic. Other than the needs I think that is yes, that is very important. People are volunteering to go in various aspects to mobilize for their candidate. Same agenda, because they are not merely a campaign. They are just agenda. I think 1.8% young people. There is a clear agenda for everybody. Agenda that this country also have become coming there. This country called Uganda. Because Uganda, by the way, if you follow, if if you see the current, analyze carefully the current political situation, you'll find that young people suffer from political exclusion. They are marginalized in terms of this, even socioeconomic opportunities. So this content mix is actually why young people are coming up to contribute qualitatively to the politics by calculating an agenda for inclusion of young people in the governance of this country. And now, if you cascade that down and you listen to the election message that young people are articulating in these various constituencies where we see young people running, messages of the future is not the same. Not to a contribution. Very yeah. What nothing so in other political the democratic the age they are viewed as their parliamentary candidate. And look at somebody look at the Uganda people. So it is either two you or the nation or person elected or young people are now feeling.
Chris, I seem to be losing you. Let me come back to you. Probably you may have to. We may have to work with not having you on video, but having you audio. You are really skipping. I think we may advise you to, for connection purposes, we work with you on audio and not video because I'm losing you. You are having intermittent connections a little bit. But let me first, before we go for a break in the next couple of minutes, let me first come back to Linnet here. One thing for sure, Linnet, is that as someone who has participated in about 3 or 4 electoral cycles, I've observed an interesting trend during around campaigns, especially election campaigns. It is mainly women who attend rallies. It's mainly women when they are distributing household items, which what we call voter inducement. It's mainly women. I don't know whether it's because they are the majority statistically, or they are the ones that have time to easily interface or interact with the candidates. And because of that, women seems to be more predisposed to voter bribery. Why do we have this category of the population more predisposed to voter bribery, especially during election? And how does that affect their choices? And how does that affect them in terms of access to service delivery moving forward?
Well, women, like you said, women attend rallies, right? Because women are mothers, and it's in their nature to nurture people. Women are very. Women easily accept the voter bribery because they head on face the poverty. They are the ones left with the kids that do not have food. Anything that can give them food to feed their kids, they'll take it. Because it's a question of livelihood versus finances or versus democracy. What would you choose? The woman would rather choose to fend for their children. That is why they are very easy to bribe. Well, many in numbers, yes, they are. And they will be very many on Larry's. That I agree. But with the state of things and how things look, you realize that women will have lesser options. How many, even in voting, you realize we have a higher voter turn up for women than males. Do you know why? Men occupy their minds with other things, while women occupy their minds with livelihood. And once the livelihood of them and their children is put at stake, democracy loses meaning for them.
Wow, interesting perspectives. Allow us to go for the break of about 2 minutes, and when we return, we shall continue with the conversations, and we shall even open it up for those who are online to make your comments, raise your questions, and then we shall discuss. Let's break for a minute or two.
COVID-19 lockdown has left us poor. Money from candidates won't make you rich. Do not be desperate. Focus on issues, not money. Often money used in campaigns is dirty money. Do you know its source? Corruption, mafia, drug trafficking, human trafficking, theft from national budget, self-seeking foreigners, selfish businessmen, selfish money lenders. Don't abandon your duty. Elect quality leadership, not big spenders.
Okay, welcome back from the short commercial break. Online viewers, you can join the conversation. You can send in your questions. You can make your comments, contributions to enrich this discussion. And I think I'll pick it up with Okidi first before I can come back to Linnet. I hope now, Okidi, you have a better connection, because before you took a break, you had you were breaking off. You were a bit intermittent. Now, Chris, can you hear us? Chris, can you hear us very well? I guess you can. There is an issue here that I want us to put into perspective. With all those challenges youth are facing to participate in the electoral processes effectively. So we talked about issues around youth being socially and economically marginalized, issues to do with poverty, all those affecting youth participation. So in the current context of Uganda, what can we do? What are the practical solutions that we can do to address the challenges that are affecting youth participation in the electoral processes? Chris, I think you have to unmute your microphone. I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm saying in terms of practical solutions, one thing is that one thing is we need to also have a legal framework that control the use of elections. Because democracy is a rule-based institution. Once you let people come in with all the resources, first of all, you don't know the source of money. Some of them are going to inject proceeds of crime action and all these other instruments. So if you have a legal framework, then we shall actually claim our democracy. Because democracy is a rule-based institution. You don't live on autopilot. So if we, in the absence of a legal framework, we live our democracy to pilot. What we are saying is that whoever has money and a source of funds can come and buy all people. So we are then trying to reverse the democratic gain. Of course,
money. A lot of factors that pass at democracy. But one of the issues of money. Others are, of course, the state institutions and how they interact during electoral processes. But within the scope of discussion of money and politics, I think our focus on how can we have a legislation that can control money, have the sources of money that come into our politics, limited clean money. For me, I think that is very good. And two, we also need to conduct voter because in Uganda, ever since we've had military atrocities, never had government of Uganda engaged through the commission. Remember, that is that even civil society organizations need. And as for that and let government to have civil society organizations, other players of the government engage in the process of civic issue. So that is why they had to make it more controlled, they manage electoral commission and other government agencies. But even those agencies are not doing enough to ensure that voters know the reason why we go into polls. So that's another very important aspect. And then we also need to reactivate civil society. We need to strengthen civil society. Because Uganda, unfortunately, thinks civil society are only civil. And yet society, conception of society broader than that. We have civil society that is a group. So if is a group that we have within our life, how do we support them to ensure within their space so they are limit civil society, the level government, maybe I mean also the brand and issue the brand therefore be there is therefore on emancipation, which is lies through government budgeting processes, government policies, government agencies. We need to ensure that we reduce poverty. Because poverty and democracy is some kind of a contradiction, because poor people, from my reading of countries like the United States of America, if you, for example, by Hajj kicking away, he will actually tell you the mechanics which they are involved. There were at one point a tax. All certain requirements to excite right to work. But they're not in that situation. For us, our situation, I will continue with the practice.
Okay. Chris, I have to come in there. Yes. Yeah, I have to come in there. You've kind of mentioned a couple of practical solutions in terms of what can be done. I want to pick one, which I'll come back to later, which is around the legal framework on election campaign financing. That is also issues to do with source of money, as one of the areas that that can be used to level the playing field and improve youth participation effectively in this process. But Nate, let me come to you, and around the question of political party strengthening. I know for a fact that a political party is like a government in the waiting. The internal processes of a political party are as important as the processes that happen at the national level. And I know for a fact that there have been issues around how it is very difficult for women to participate effectively within the political party spaces. There have been allegations of sextortion, for example. I will not mention which parties, but you know what I'm talking about here, where women are exploited because they want to participate effectively in these spaces and they're exploited. How far true is this, and how impeding is this to the participation of women in the electoral processes? That is one, but also true. There has been an argument that probably representative democracy is one way of addressing the problem of commercialized politics, where voters interface with the party but not an individual. Is this one of the issues you see that can actually address the problem we're having right now of candidates who are having a difficult time to sell their manifesto, to sell their agenda, to interact with the electorate, and they are elected on the basis of the agenda, their manifesto, their capabilities, as opposed to how much they can give a voter?
Well, sex and politics for women, they've always moved together. You've heard of the sex bill passed by Honorable Adeke. We cannot deny these facts. They're actually happening. I'm very fortunate. At least I have worked on my merits. But I've also had my fair share of insults because it's believed no woman can do anything without having to throw a leg somewhere. It's not necessarily the fact, because I know a lot of brilliant women with brilliant ideas that have actually worked their way to the top. But I think it's also a tactic of patriotism to bring down women, rather patriarchy, to bring down women and then have the other gender supersede them. Not that I'm against the other gender, but I think it's also part of the whole plan. And it also largely influences the money bit of it. Like I said earlier on when we were having a conversation about money, if a woman has made her money and she enters politics, she is throwing leg. If she has entered politics without the money and she climbs up the ranks, how do we pull her down? Throw leg somewhere in between the conversation. So sex and politics has always been, for women, it has always been tricky. People are talking about it, people are working about it, but I also know that there are a lot of women that have worked their way to the top. At least I have. I know a few that have, and hopefully a lot of people are going up to make this work. Well, for the second question, can you please repeat the second question?
The second question was about the argument of representative democracy, where you have political parties. In this case, it's the political parties that endorse flag bearers, and then it's the party. Sorry, it's the party that campaigns, mobilizes resources, campaigns for the candidates, and then it interfaces with the electorate, as opposed to individuals who are carrying the party flags. In doing this, you are reducing the interaction between the electorate and the candidates and removing the transaction element, because they are now interfacing with the structure of the party. How practical can that be? I know there have been discussions in this direction, but how practical can that be for us to have more meaningful democracy, especially when you're talking about multi-party democracy?
Well, I don't believe that can work for Uganda as it is, because you see, our parties speak to larger things than communities. Well, for instance, in Buganda, if I am an FDC, I would not let's assume if I am FDC, I would not expect the FDC manifesto to talk about all the problems that Baganda have. For example, I am a Muganda. And what Buganda is clamoring for is federal. Go far east in Soroti and Teso, where there is female genital manipulation. That's their problem. So if you narrow down it to the party to do a manifesto that is this broad, it will be very, very, very tricky. What I can say is have the party backup. Probably, because it also becomes very tricky to market the party manifesto, market the party candidate, who is probably the presidential candidate, and market yourself in your constituency dynamics. It becomes very tricky. So I also do not want to burden the party because I know how party works. It becomes a very huge task. Imagine with the way this government has constitutionalized with God knows how many 100 something districts and all that, how will the party strain itself so wide to campaign for all of these people? And then we also have a party candidate for presidential who has to do all round regional tour the whole country. So that is very straining to begin with. It's economically not visible. But my own opinion added to that, I think the party can devise means where the party executive or party people that are not actually standing in an election can provide backup to individual candidates. We can draw a structure and say probably if the presidential candidate is going to Teso, I think Okidi is an influential person in Teso, and as DP we need to stand with Okidi, who is a candidate first of all, and then when the party president comes to campaign in Teso, Okidi is aiding us, the party is aiding him, and if the party president is not there, we have someone, probably a member from the NEC that is not standing, that will provide visibility of the party in absence of the party itself.
Thank you. There's a question which I would want to respond to coming from Abel. Is when it comes to the nomination fees, that to what extent the high nomination fees? I know for the member of parliament it was 3 million, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 3 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
How is that deterring to women participation to offer themselves as candidates?
3 million is really a huge amount. We have had conversations about it. I think I've been one of the soldiers that have been on foot for the high nomination fee. We have a case in court. We have been to parliament countless times discussing the high nomination fee, but it probably affects the women. I know it clearly puts women behind in participation. Because if we are nominating for 3 million, we have not talked about the pushers, we have not talked about the transport, traversing the how many sub-counties that are in a constituency. It becomes very tricky. This is a lot of money. But I think it's also a constituted fact for members of parliament that are already in parliament to reinstate themselves in parliament. You can have conversations about this, but they are hell bent on not changing this because it helps them stay in power. Because first of all, they have very many finances as they are exposed to keep them. They can keep the 3 million, even if they just decided to say, we shall keep our salary for the last 4 months. It's enough for them to campaign and win an election, which cannot be good for a woman like me who is just campaigning. So it is what it is, and I think all we have to do is keep talking about it, and probably the masses will fall on their ears and change it.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you on the practical way solutions to removing the challenges impeding effective participation of women in the politics. But let me come to you, Okidi. I hope this time your connection will be much, much better. There is a narrative, there's a construction that when it comes to electoral violence, it's mainly the youth who are conscripted to be the players in electoral violence. And also there's a narrative that even when we have this big number of youth, they do not have a single unified, and I think I need to underline the word unified here. a unified agenda that defines them as youth to make informed decisions when it comes to issues around leadership. How do we address this narrative? One of having the youth engaging in this space, pursuing their agenda, a unified agenda, and not being used to be either to abet or to promote or to be vehicles of electoral violence. Especially when you talk about 2021 elections. And I encourage that you be still. When you're talking, you have a lot of body movements. Probably it's also affecting the connection.
Okay. I hope you can hear me now, bro. I'm going to try to be very clear there. Well, you see, it takes two parties disagreeing to have an election conflict that causes election violence. And you see in this country, there is a blame game. When you meet the old people, they'll say, you see, young people are disorganized, they are not serious, they are violent. You know, that narrative, I think, comes from the older people in this country. They should not get too tangled. You see, if you exclude young people, if you make elections do or die, it also depends on the character of the elections and what the players are doing. Because violence is a result of a dispute, of a conflict. But if all parties played their part well, then definitely there will be no election violence. But if you continue beating up young people who are exercising their political freedoms, you continue arresting young people who have committed no crime, their only crime is participating and having a political grievance, then to blame young people for election violence without blaming the other people who also make young people be at that particular point, I think is unfair. So election violence, whereas young people have energy, just like they have energy to participate in elections, to move around, carry candidates, they also have that energy, if also not channeled or harnessed properly for positive electoral outcomes and purposes, and also turn violent. So the issue of election violence and that narrative should actually look at the broader, the way the politics of the country is. To blame people is as I think it has election. When it comes to issue organization, young people not have an agenda they run around. I think that is also not in my opinion, that has a multiple stream of argument. Because one need to number of things. There is an agenda. It doesn't mean that if it's not written, there is no agenda. Even the constitution is not fully, many laws are not written. People actually know that doing this is bad and this is how things should happen. So,
okay. Yes, Chris. I'm losing a bit. Chris, I'm losing a bit. I'm going to come back to you shortly. I'm going to come back to you shortly. I'm losing a bit. Yeah, I'm going to come back to you shortly as we discuss the way forward. Just hold your point there. then I can't. Let me come to Linnet now. Hold your point, Chris. I'm coming back to you. Linnet, our time is really fast spent. Quickly, under the current circumstances, and we are heading into 2021 elections. Actually, we're in the middle of, we're 2 months away, and we are. Or I can say we are in the middle of the season. With all the challenges you've shared with us, what are the practical solutions? What can be done? How do we improve the participation of women in this process so that when they participate, they don't participate as conduits of voter inducement, they don't participate as victims of voter bribery, they don't participate as just political capital to politicians, but also when even they make that choice counts and probably can be one of the foundational blocks to improving service delivery, where they interface most.
Well, like Okidi said earlier on, I think that the population is becoming conscious politically, and we are praying that they become more conscious politically, because what you vote decides what you will have for the next 5 years. So I think women have had it. They've had their share of suffering by accepting the little voter bribery, by accepting to be played out. But they've also seen what other women that chose issue-based politics have made out of themselves. We have seen, we have examples of women that are emanating a fact that women should be in politics. Up to now, I still hold my head high for Honorable Winnie Kiza. She's among the first few members of parliament that decide that I have had enough, and they keep their stand as members of parliament. So we as women should emanate these examples and walk in shoes of such women for the betterment of our participation. But if not for anything, if your children are going to school and you've seen the burden of paying school fees and the long list of requirements, you know you should vote better. You know you should think better. If you take 10,000 today to the market and you cannot even come back with a black cavera, you know you should vote better. And because for us women, what matters to us is more the security and the well-being of our children. You know we need better roads. You have seen your children die in the hands of LDUs and all this. You've seen all of these things go on. And it's you, the mothers of this country, that need to change the narrative. So when you get to the sources of power, do better. Don't become the, I hate mentioning names, but don't become the Anitas that say, no change. Be the Winnie Kizas that say, I think I have served my time. Let another woman rise and take my shoes. Don't be among the women that beat other women down that are trying to participate in politics. Be the woman that raises other women up to participate in politics. That's all I can say. Because I think our democracy itself is a work in progress, and we should respect it and let it evolve naturally. And I know women are coming up, and we have seen women come up and do better. And hopefully more are coming up, and more will still come up. And the betterment will come with time.
Thank you so much. Chris, in 1 minute, in your parting shot, what can we do to have youth effectively participate in this process and change the narrative? Chris, in a minute, because we are wrapping up. Okay, okay, Chris, I can't hear you. We've really been having a problem with your connection. And our time is fast spent. Probably next time we shall have this conversation. We shall see how we can work out that you have a better connection with us. I can't thank you enough. With me, it has been a pleasure. Linnet Nanyonjo, the chairperson of the Interparty Youth League, the chairperson of the People's Progressive Party. Thank you for joining us and being part of this discussion. And then Christopher Okidi is running for Gulu, which is now a city, for the Gulu East parliamentary seat.
Yes.
And he's also formerly a guild president of Gulu University. He's a lawyer, and he's also the national youth leader of DP. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this conversation. We will be with you again next time, next Saturday, same time, to discuss and see how we can better our democracy. It's nice to have you, all of you have joined us in this online virtual conversations. Till then, God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The monster of money politics is eating up Uganda's democracy. When you take money from a candidate, it means you are feeding the monster. Then you become a part of the problem. When a candidate who overspends on campaigns is elected, he or she will not represent voters but himself. He or she will engage in corruption to recover campaign money. Social services will not be delivered and the voter will suffer more. Voter, let's be wise. Give democracy a chance. Do not sell your vote. Focus on the issue.